Tides. Tides are the cyclic rise and fall of ocean water, caused by the gravitational pull of the moon and to a lesser degree the sun. High tide is when the water bulge, as it's called, is in your area, and it means that the water levels are higher. Low tide is when the bulge of water has moved away, and so you're experiencing a lower level of tides. Notice here we have the moon, and here's the Earth. There is a bulge caused by the gravitational attraction between the Earth and the moon that creates a greatly exaggerated in this picture bulge of greater amount of water in this location, directly under the moon. Centrifugal force creates a bulge on the opposite side. Basically, these two bodies are spinning around each other, so to speak, which creates a pull of water on this side. When you are directly beneath the moon, or on the opposite side of the moon, you experience high tide. When you are in these two areas, you're experiencing a low tide. So if we watch this red dot, this location, as it rotates or spins underneath the moon, you get a high tide when the moon's overhead, a low tide the side, high, low, high, low, and so forth. Many areas on Earth, most, the typical would be 2 tides per day, 2 high tides each day and 2 low tides each day. Now, why would the sun have less of an effect on the tides than the moon does? The sun is much more massive, but the sun is further away. Gravity is dependent on both mass and distance. So although the sun is much more massive, the distance has a greater effect on the pull of gravity. Therefore, the moon has a greater impact locally. Timing of tides, on average, is about 12 hours and 25 minutes from high to high. Complete cycle of 2 high and 2 low tides is typically about 24 hours and 50 minutes. And this is what you would experience at a particular location. This is high tide, the water levels are higher. 6 hours later, roughly, the low tide hits. 6 hours later, the high tide. 6 hours later, the low. This is an example of an extreme low tide at Mount Saint Michel on the north coast of France. Notice you can see this is the road leading up to Mount Saint Michel, and parking on each side, and here's a grassy bank between the road and the beach. This is the same location, Mount Saint Michel, at high tide. These people are walking on that road, and this is that grassy bank. And this is what, in this image, has lots of cars on it, sand, but now the water has come in and has flooded the area. This is rather extreme. Most are not such a significant difference between low tide and high tide. Many places it's a foot at most. But this one is a very extreme example. There are 2 general types of tides that are important to understand. Spring tides occur during the new and full moon phases, when the Earth, Moon, and Sun are in a straight line. The high tides are higher, and the low tides are lower. So that's because the Earth, Moon, and Sun are pulling together. That's what's going on in this image. The moon, whether it's at new or full, is pulling to the left and right, and the sun is pulling also to the left and right. So since the sun and moon are pulling together, they create much higher highs and therefore, of course, lower lows. The other type of tide happens during the quarter moon phases, when the sun, moon, and earth are at right angles. So the high tides are lower and the low tides are higher. So this makes a smaller difference between the high and the low tide. And that's what's going on here. The moon, at either of the quarters, is pulling this way, and the sun is pulling this way. The two cancel each other out to a large extent, and so therefore your tides are not very great.